Hey, John Gilroy here. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, HAL famously acted autonomously. Today, let's unpack some concepts about autonomous penetration testing. Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, the podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I'll be your moderator. Our guest in the virtual studio is David Grundy, Public Sector Field CTO at Tynes, T-I-N-E-S. David, how are you?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks for having me.
I wish we could do this on video because he looks like a Viking or something. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulled out like a war axe or something. You got quite the look there, huh, David?
Go easy on me, John. Yeah.
What do your friends call? Your friends call you Grundy because it's much easier. So I'll think and call you David because I don't want anyone throwing an axe at me or whatever you Vikings do.
a lot of Davids out there. So yeah, everybody just calls me Grundy.
Yeah. We got I had this silly opening about 2001 and automation, and I think this is kind of an undercurrent that is going on in the federal government right now. You go to these conferences and people yak, automation, and the next event, automation, and someone else goes up there and automation, then the end of the world's automation, and then put up your feet and smoke a cigar because of automation. Then you see pushback. Guys like maybe me and David are going in the back room going, kind of been around. David's been everywhere, been knocked around and beat up a lot, and maybe be wary about this. So let's open up the discussion here. Let's talk about automation, maybe how it can benefit the government. We had a recent event in the government shut down. I'm sure that can happen again. So what are the biggest challenges you see that you faced in federal agencies for automation and continuity and public trust?
Sure. Yeah, I've been through a few shutdowns. Large scale disruptions at USDA and other organizations. It's not just about lack of funding. It's really the loss of operational rhythm. You have mission systems that can't pause from food safety inspections or disaster recovery payments, but the people and processes have to sustain them, and they suddenly go dark. From continuity, agencies often find that their workflows are far too human dependent. If one role is furloughed or people don't show up or credentials expire, it's you'll often see, or hear about people just sitting back, having a cup of coffee, saying that person is not here. I don't know what to do. Let's move on to the next thing. That's not something you want to see happen a lot in the government. That's not what taxpayers want. That's where we can come in. That's where Tynes and automation can really step in and be a buffer between shutdowns and total stoppage. You can design workflows that self-execute based on policy and logic and security controls and preserve mission operations. But you really have to think about that beforehand, before you experience an event like a disaster or even a shutdown. So you think about zero trust and continuity. You don't have to assume that a person is going to be available. It assumes that the task has to still get done. That's really what you have to think about. The public doesn't think about architecture, when they still need to get assistance, when those critical life and limb systems still have to be available even in a time of shutdown or even in the event of a disaster. So zero trust and the memorandum for M22-08 both push agencies to those kind of resilience. So verification is the key in that type of persistence. And that's the control mechanism. That's where automation can play a role.
Good. I live in rural Virginia. I have a neighbor here who 10 years in the Navy SEALs, never talks about it. But I'm sure he could do some crisis management and good reaction. But I think with automation, I think they might use a different word. You might want to use proactive. You might make sure you're not in that 7-Eleven at 3 o'clock in the morning and get robbed or something. So what about automation and proactive operational resistance? Where does that fit in this discussion?
It's funny. We have a saying in the government that we are great about fixing a problem that's already happened. You remember a plane landing on the White House lawn? We decided to put missiles up on the top of the White House, or going through TSA, somebody's got explosive in their shoes and all of a sudden everybody's got to take their shoes off at the airport. So, we're great at being reactive to problems. The hard part is being proactive and thinking about things from a standpoint of before they happen. And that's where we see that really the work can be inventive and can be critical analysis comes about thinking about the processes before they happen and using AI and using a logic about your workflows to think about what kind of remedial tasks can be done by systems so that fatigue and the work that is remedial can be done by these bots, can be done by AI, and you can verify that, right? And while you're doing that, you can put the control sets in place. And that's really where Tynes thrives, is building security into your design and building that into your architecture so that you can think about these processes up front and build that into your planning so that your teams can actually have the physical control, whether you want to build an agentic process that allows your tasks to be fully automated, or whether you want to have triggers that send actions to your team or teams and involve those teams across those workflows to be integrated so that you can have full control and you can have documented control over those workflows. That's really where it comes in handy. That's really where you can thrive and begin to control the situations.
David Grundy, Grundy, looked you up on LinkedIn. You have experience in the commercial sector, federal sector. So let's look at both sectors and find out. So what lessons do you think the commercial folk can teach us govies here, and maybe both ways?
Yeah, so the commercial sector and the private sector, really, they can learn a lot from each other. In the government, what stands out the most is discipline. Agencies operate within certain frameworks like FedRAMP, FITARA. That's how we get the $1,500 toilet seat is we got to check it. We got to make sure that it's compliant and then check it again and then go back and check it again, right? And that's how things build up, and that's why things take long. That's really what the government is good at, is making sure things are safe and secure, and the regulations are there to make sure that the public is taken care of. The private sector is good at failing fast, right? Exploring what the art of the possible is, investing in research and development, and being able to see what kind of new innovative ideas they can throw out as fast as possible. Sweet spot is where those two worlds meet. So where the federal discipline and private sector agility meet. So platforms like Tynes exist right in the middle of that intersection. We help teams automate securely without the overhead that slows innovation. And that's really what's exciting. So when you build and design with security in mind, which is what we were founded on, and you put those zero trust principles in to verify every action and log every transaction plus the design, you can still move at the speed of your mission. And that's really what makes things exciting.
And people don't know this, but Tynes, Tines, has been very successful. Since I found out about you guys 2 years ago, it's been explosive growth. And I think there's a reason for it. Explosive growth in the commercial world, explosive growth in the federal world. And you've seen both. So what are the barriers you've seen to get federal leaders to adopt automation? What barriers do you see are out there?
Yeah, there's a few barriers. At USDA, I saw incredibly capable teams, and we were able to move the needle and raise the bar consistently. But there are some as with anywhere really, not just in the government, not just within USDA. There's common themes that exist everywhere. I think I would summarize them into three real categories. The first is just fear of change, and you're going to have that anywhere. Breaking the norms and losing control. is probably at the top. There's always a perception that people are going to get replaced, or that something that gets automated takes control out of somebody's authority. In reality, I think those automations, that are built by people, people need to understand what that mission is and how that enables the mission. And by building those automations, that creates new opportunities. And that's what we want to emphasize. We're creating new capabilities to build those automations and really empower those teams, across systems, and across processes. That really empowers a whole new mindset across the organization. And that really is exciting to see. The other is fragmentation, that I think is another kind of barrier within the organization. There's silos that exist across agencies. Each agency or mission area has its own tools. And so they become comfortable with their own tools, or they say, hey, I can't adopt a specific process that you have. It would take too much time. It's too complicated to integrate something. That becomes an issue that you see. There's a lot of barriers put up, when you start to see other organizations or other teams say, hey, I operate within a specific tool set or a specific architecture. I can't afford to take on the disruption that you would see within a fragmented organization like that. And then there's always the funding that comes along with something like that. In order to switch over, I got to operate in parallel, which is going to be too much money. So you have to build out a strong business case in order to be able to make a changeover like something like that. But luckily, you've got initiatives like the TMF, the Technology Modernization Fund, and Executive Order 14028 that call out automation and zero trust as requirements for digital transformation, that can help support some of these organizations moving in this direction to overcome these barriers.
The podcast gods have a mandate that I say artificial intelligence, but I'm just going to pull back and comply halfway. I'm talking about regular old intelligence. Let's talk about just intelligent workflows in a government situation, And so you worked on a few. So what makes them meaningful versus theoretical or conceptual?
Yeah. So intelligent workflows, provide a secure way to integrate automation, AI, and agents across teams, tools, and systems. So it's not just about doing tasks repetitively. It's also about enabling multiple groups across multiple planes. So it may not just be cybersecurity, but it may be cybersecurity across your business organization, to enable your payments to go out or your claims to go out, So it's really making those tasks simple, making them integrated across multiple systems, across multiple teams, etc. That's what makes a workflow intelligent, right? Enabling repetitive tasks that normally may be completed by multiple humans, multiple teams across multiple systems, and being able to take the repetitive, or what we at times call the muck work, that would be done on a regular basis, on a mundane basis, remove that from the repetitive and really create a informed, more critical analysis path for individuals to work within.
Okay, the nightmare we lived through was a government shutdown, and it may happen again at the end of the year. And who knows what's going to happen next year? No one really knows. So if you were going to give some people advice for maybe using automation to for continuity purposes, so how would you start off, and would you pick high value use cases? How would you even prepare for the next shutdown?
Yeah. I'm hoping that we don't face another shutdown here shortly, coming in January. But in the event that we do, I just think that it underscores the need for organizations to really take an underlying look at where the individuals and the escalation paths are within their organization. When the government faces a shutdown or a major disruption, I don't think the challenge is system failure. It's workforce availability and access control. People lose access to systems, approvals get stuck, and processes grind to a halt just because a human is not there, just because there's not a butt in the seat. The most immediate and high value cases are the ones that reduce dependency on people, while maintaining compliance and operations. I saw this on a consistent basis. We, as a shared service provider, saw it for across multiple agencies, multiple cabinet level agencies in several life and limb systems and market systems, claims processing, etc. Agencies that had already built workflows and automation, even simple things like patching cycles, credential rotations, compliance submissions, they're able to continue functioning when others just straight up, stalled and didn't know what to do. Those automations don't replace people. They preserve continuity until the people come back, right? And that's where, even when the people come back, they don't have an overbearing workload to step back into. But I think I would classify the criticality into kind of three main categories. The first is mission continuity, and these are like the operational, the life and limb system tasks, those tied to emergency response, public safety. Those workflows need to be pre-programmed with policy and logic so that those workflows can continue and be escalated as necessary until the automation staff safely under automation until staff can get back. The next is cybersecurity and compliance. So hackers and adversaries, they don't take time off. Neither should we. So we have to be able to continuously monitor, detect, and remediate alerts on a regular basis. These all have to be, automation should take a key role in these systems and safely automate our SOC processes to make them, repetitive, verifiable, and enrich our processes so that we could triage automatically and keep humans in the loop for high-risk situations. And then the final component, I would say, is probably escalation and comms, so that the people that are still around can have escalation routed to them in the event of crisis, so they can get the information to them quickly to make informed decisions as quickly as possible. So that's the order that I would put things in, so groups, for their comms and escalations can get notified, via text, Slack, the emergency response notifications, etc.
Continuity is great, and that may be great for a commercial organization, but as you know, in the federal government, not good enough. They demand transparency. It's got to be auditable and compliant, and so that's the added burden to federal tech, I think. And so during a shutdown, there's added scrutiny to this whole process. So how can a per system administrator juggle all this? His hands are tied. He's not getting paid. And you got to be transparent doing all this, huh? That's tough.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the most important questions that we're going to face over the next few years. All CIOs and CISOs are going to face this question, accelerating automation and layering AI, and how do I stay transparent and accountable while the threat vector continues to expand. right? The sprawl of the cybersecurity plane continues to grow, almost compound. We're not just defending endpoints and networks anymore. We're defending decision logic through these AI implementations. Prompt injection attacks, hidden prompts embedded in images, data poisoning in supply chains. These are all new horizons in threats. Agencies are realizing that an intelligence system is only as trustworthy as the data and dependencies it relies on. Luckily, we've got some basis to, some governance and basis for us to rely on that gives us guidance. We're seeing a big emphasis on software supply chain and CIS's software bill of materials, the SBOM initiative. That helps us, gives us guidance for steps to transparency and software development for documenting every component and dependency so that we can trace vulnerabilities as they come through, open source code and third-party libraries, or an AI model itself. So
well, let's get back to some humans here.
Yeah.
When humans deal with cyber attack, backup scenarios, what they might do is have tabletop meetings where you, me, and 5 people on staff sit around and go, okay, David, here's what you're going to do if this happens, and then here's what I'm going to do, and here's how the backup's going to be done. And people, they plan for attacks. I mean, it happens. And they plan for systems to go bad and have to recover. So backup, there's whole backup strategies. We know that, and this is documented. You can find books on it and everything else. So are we going to have tabletop exercises for the government shutdown? Is that must be what's going to take place? Because if I were a manager, I'm looking at December 20. Okay, let's get everyone together. Okay, now David, if this happens, here's your list, and because it has to be patches. And by the way, there's some deadlines for reports, and so I guess the new tabletop exercise is going to be a political exercise, huh? I mean, what else is there to do that? I think that's the best way to handle it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should be doing that on a regular basis. We should be planning for those types of exercises so that we know who we depend on, we know what systems we depend on, how they work together, what teams work together, and what our criticalities, what our highest criticalities are, what the escalation paths are, etc. And what we can automate and what we can't. I mean, the critical points become how we operate under those circumstances, and not how we operate on a day-to-day basis, but how we plan, how we fundamentally change how we think. We need to change how we think to where our day-to-day becomes planning for operating in a disaster environment. That should be the norm, right? Planning for operating under a shutdown. That should be the norm. That should be our day-to-day environment. Understanding what our most critical systems are, operating them on a regular basis as if they needed to operate in a shutdown kind of mentality, in a critical mentality environment. And once we have planned for that, then we've documented and built in all of the safety and security into it. Now we've essentially planned and implemented a fail-safe environment.
I just ordered a book by a guy named Hadrian, and he was an emperor, and I'm sure he had a lot of strategies during his reign. But what about the strategy here? So I need a takeaway. I need a takeaway for this conversation. Everyone's going to go to tinynes.io. We know that. Get more information. But from you, if they just sat down with you and had a coffee and said, "Okay, David, you see some stuff. So what kind of a strategy would they kind of put together that would have this balance of innovation, security, and continuity?" I mean, so give us 2 or 3 guidelines or starting points that we can walk away with, because it's a brave new world.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that you need to do is you can get started by going to times.com/federal. We've got plenty of resources there to be able to get started with how you build out your workflows, starting with security in mind. I mean, when I came, when I started my career transition from the federal government space, I had heard about a few of my smart friends, not my smart friends, but my really smart friends, like my MIT smart friends that had went to this company called Times. And I looked at the product and I saw what they were doing to build in security from the start, not just not just as a means to provide cybersecurity workflows, but to provide workflows, intelligent workflows for AI that not only recorded and logged every event, every task that they were enabling, but also integrated the tools that existing tools that agencies were using, and did so to where the process was also documented. I mean, being within USDA, being the first to get a FedRAMP ATO, when I saw this, I had one of those, movie cinematic type moments where you just sit there and you go, holy, you know what kind of things, where my eyes were big and wide. And I knew this thing was going to be big in the federal government space because you cannot achieve compliance out of the gate that quickly and that easily with a user experience and still maintain your mission development and your mission operational success that quickly. So what I would suggest to people is go to times.com/federal. There's a bunch of resources to start your boot camps, to get certified, building out these workflows and connect to your tools and see all of the templates for tools that you have already. And to get certified, you can even get your own instance out there to start playing around with and building these workflows out in a plug and play model. It's great to see the art of the possible out there to get started. More philosophically and without the plug for the company itself. The first step is always visibility. You can't automate what you don't understand. So take your SOPs and start analyzing where your choke points are. See what you can document and where you can implement automation and where you think AI can play a role safely. And then start to scale deliberately. Start to say, hey, this is a choke point for us. We need to put something in place here, and we feel confident that we can do this safely, that we can document it, that we can get all of our controls in place to start putting processes into place. And then treat it as a practice, not as a product. That's the mindset shift we need to take, right? This needs to be something that we're not just going to do as a fad. This needs to be something that we are bought into. We go up the chain and we're going to adopt it and mature with it, right? Whether it's human in the loop, deterministic, or agentic, or all three combined, it's policy aligned, it's verifiable, it's built in out of the gate from the start, right? That's how we're going to do it. And then that's how I suggest it, and that's how it aligns with all of your executive orders and all of your policies within your organization, and with all of the government statutes that come along with it. And then close the loop with your business cases and with your retrospectives, and continue to adapt and continue to mature as you go along. Continue to expand it and grow. That's what I would suggest. Again, Tines.io, you can get started. You can see how easy it is. You can see the storyboard and the plug and play capability, and you can start to explore the templates and story cases for alerts that you can see cases and triage capabilities and you can see what some of the large organizations that we're doing business with today have already done to see the real business value that's already been created.
Okay, I think you've given our listeners a better idea of what Tynes is all about. It's certainly not very well known in the federal community, but it looks like it has the skill set that's going to be very popular here in the next 4 or 5 years. Because I don't see how else people can avoid this. They're going to have to, transitioning to an interruption is going to be almost a part of the business here. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, David Grundy, Public Sector Field CTO at Tynes, TINE.